everybody, and welcome back to the Old Moon Podcast, episode 45. This
45,
week.
yes.
Yes, 45. All right. I'm your host, Blue Squadron, joined as always by my co-hosts, J-Kun, VT.
Hello, my name is J-Kun, VT, V before the team, an awakening Wusamane with 765 gear score. I do a lot of endgame content such as Olin's The Dungeons. I'm currently really enjoying Izrahid Highlands. It's really fun. I wish it was a party grand spot, but I'm still enjoying it as a single player grand spot. And you can find me over at twitch.tv/JKunVT, V before the T.
Right on. And my boy Blonde.
Hello, I am Blonde Bear. I am the wielder of the North America's first LVI.
You got it.
Wait, you got it?
This morning. I got it this
it.
morning.
Let's go!
I believe I'm the first in North America. Pretty crazy, long journey since literally the origin of Odalita. And yeah, you can catch me at twitch.tv/blondebear while I try to finish the merchant ring within a decent amount of time. We'll see if that happens though.
Right
Did you combine it yet?
Wow.
Yes, I did combine it. I corrupted it. I did everything. Yeah.
Does it give like a server announcement when you
Did you
do
turn
it?
it into a base falling god yet?
I will not turn into a base fallen god, and no,
Yes.
there is no server announcement for the LV item. Unfortunately,
Wait,
Oh, no.
what the heck, bro? It's so underwhelming.
it is
That's
just
crazy.
a chat item.
Also, no
Chat
title
item.
either.
No
Tragedy,
title, no nothing.
bro.
But maybe they'll add something now that it's been. With one, it's like there was only one in EU, so it's like, whatever. Maybe we don't add it, and then I don't know. Maybe now that there's two, maybe they'll consider it. Who knows?
That's right. That copium keeps us going every single day.
Mhm.
All right. So we have a number of topics on the docket today. There is the talk of the town, which we will get into in our first topic here, which is the new GVG system that they have on the global labs, and then the state of competitive PvP game modes. Let's start with the GVG system. You guys aren't PvPers, so I'll give my opinion first, then I'll ask you something about it. I think
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I think that the new GVG system is a good idea on paper. The problem is a 15 versus 15 or 20 versus 20 game mode is going to be difficult to regularly like keep going. So like, I think that they're going to have to introduce it in Windows. Like it will only have like, kind of like how ranked AOS was like it would only happen in a certain time frame. That they need to keep it like a very narrow window, because otherwise I feel like otherwise guilds will just sit in queue forever and they won't have anybody to queue against. I think it'll be really popular at the start. I think guilds will try it, and then once the dust kind of settles down, I think they absolutely need to make sure that they have like a window, or I think it's just DOA content, sadly, just because of how many people you need to get together in your guild to do that. And it needs to be outside of Node Wars, so like it needs to be not at Node War times. So they need to make sure that they're scheduling like the window, so to speak, outside of Node War time. I do think it is a good idea on paper. It helps give those players that like normally love the open world PvP, they like that. I mean, I don't particularly like open world PvP very much. I feel like in most cases you're getting zerged one way or another, and one team is just not having fun, and oftentimes it ends up turning into harassment. But like, those players should be allowed to play the game the way they want to, as long as it's not disrupting other players. So I think that if you like open world PvP, this is a good alternative. This is a good option, and it shows that Pluribus is kind of at least open to like, yeah, they're taking away certain aspects of like PvP that used to be in the game for years, but at least they're trying to add new game modes that are less prone to toxicity, less prone to harassment. Because like, let's be honest, as a player base, if they release, every time they release new content, it's can we exploit it and how, right? Like how can we like be toxic using this system? So like, I'm glad to see it. I'm nervous about its implementation. Now for you guys, they said there's going to be a lot of PvP rewards. Now, what, you guys don't really have an opinion on the GVG system like up front, but I'm curious, what would get you guys to do a game mode like that? Like, Blonde, we'll start with you. What kind of rewards or incentives would you look for in order to initiate you to actually proactively queue up for something like that?
Similar stuff to the Node War system. I think they did a good job of adding those crystals that upgrade the Alakas knock rods, and I think that a system like that would probably be really well made. Like something like similar to the Guild Boss system where they added Rebelliouses. Just a way to get something that was more exclusive, still leaving it as exclusive, but giving you an option to maybe get that material. I think that that's like the good route to go. More tokens to turn in for something. Obviously, like Jay and I have said in the past, any kind of cosmetic, costume, or title also is kind of really nice. Like, I'm not pumped about PvP, but a 15v15 like guild building sort of experience, like even if I was in a PvE guild that like wanted to do a little bit of PvP but not Node Wars or any open world stuff, might be interested in something like this. I do have a few handful of people in my PvE guild that are interested in PvP, and this might be a way to, you know, you don't need your whole guild to do it, but a handful of members. And I think that with the right rewards, like stuff like that, a token system to collect, like just like they have it with the new Shikatu seals. You have a title for collecting 300 of them. I haven't spent a single Shikatu seal because I want to get that title because I'm a freak and collector. And I think something like that would be
trying to get that too.
that would be something for me and Jay, to like be interested in it. I think, yeah.
What what title are you trying to get?
What is it, Shining Knight or
Shining
something
Knight,
from
Shining
the
Knight, yeah.
Oh, the Shikatu seals.
Shikatu seals, yeah.
Bro, we're all getting that. We're all inadvertently working on that. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I'll see you in 3 years. Like, they came out with it. I was like, all right, sounds good.
I'm collecting every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So okay, all right, Jakun, what might get you involved in something like this? And do you think you do it on your Wusa or your Shy?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Blonde Bear hit the nail on the head on everything I also wanted was, you know, cosmetic stuff. I love like exclusive costumes, exclusive cosmetics like that would incentivize me to, like, I'm kind of a completionist myself, like a collector of some sorts, you know, like for like even treasures and stuff. I love getting the Orzeka outfit. I got the Nuver outfit. I would probably do it on my Shy. I do think like, at least for me, I love any opportunity to do group content for my Shy, and so I feel like my Shy would probably would make the most sense for me to utilize, since, you know, the buffs are kind of really strong. Because, you know, it's really strong. But as for like the GVG system, have you guys done a lot of GVGs yourself? Like, do you enjoy GVGs?
In the past, yeah.
No, well,
if
okay,
yeah, go ahead.
So I've done many GVGs. I've been on the give it end. I've been on the receive it end. Most of the time, if you just boil it down, it's how many people can you bring to the open world at any time of the day, whether it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. Like, you know, like how many people can you pull, right? And it ends up being kind of a Zerg fest. I would say the best GVGs have like relatively close numbers, and you've got like, it's kind of like a low-key simulated open world Node War where, like, as a shot caller, it's really fun to do those really high-end GVGs. The best GVGs I ever had were in Vertex versus Black Rose, were some of the best GVGs I've ever had. And Vertex lost a lot of those GVGs, if I'm being 100% honest. But it was so much fun trying to, like, kite around. You're using things that you would never be able to use in Node Wars, like the top of cliffs. You're bombing. People are mapping to town using escapes. There's definitely a lot of varied approaches. People can V in. You can use shy bubbles and really think outside the box. Those GVGs could be a lot of fun. The problem is, most of the time, I would say the vast majority of GVGs end up just being a hard Zerg fest one way or another, and it's just not fun for either side in that case. So, like, I do think that the instance GVGs kind of help fix that a little bit. I'm not sure how frequently they're going to get used.
I mean, for me,
no, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. So yeah, for me, I've tried I've actually gone to a few GVGs, especially during that time when siege rewards were being changed to be, like, you know, a lot better, and so I started joining more PvP centric guilds during that time. And, you know, a good reason for that is also I wanted to learn more and improve myself as a player, so I wanted to try like more like PvP stuff there. But unfortunately for that, how do I word it? It's like there was like this sort of like set of expectation or obligation to attend GVGs for that. So alongside with that pressure and me not wanting to like drop what I'm doing to attend, made me not want to attend them. So like, I don't dislike the idea of GVGs. I think it's interesting content that like it can organically happen, if that makes sense. You know, I think that's what a lot of players in the PvP community enjoy it for. And with these guild leagues, it's an essentially organized form of GVGs. You know, I don't know how it will play out, if it will be successful or not. But I do think that gamers are generally naturally competitive people, right? I know for me, whenever I'm a little bit slower on the boss blitz rankings, I know that I'm capable of getting a better time. It motivates me to try to get a better time. So I think this implemented ranking system in the Guild League will maybe draw out that natural competitive from people to do this type of content. But I think timing is very, very important, right? That sort of window that you were talking about is going to, because we don't want to what's it called, like thin out, everybody's like split up in terms of, oh, do I want to go node war or do I have to do this like the Guild League stuff, right? So I think
Yeah,
it's an interesting system. We'll see how it plays out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up an excellent point. The biggest problem with GVGs as they currently stand is that ultimately, when you're making a guild and you're trying to like make a competitive PvP guild, you're always managing what we call burnout. Normal players are less prone to this, but in a PvP guild, you see burnout is much more predominant. So like the requirements that your guild has, usually it's like 1 node war and 1 siege a week. If you're in like a siege guild, right? That's usually like the baseline requirement. But like there's like 3 or 4 node wars a week to choose from. So like the leadership is basically always there. And so they're the most prone to burnout. When your leadership dies, the guild dies, right? But like as a normal player, being required to go to GVGs constantly is
exhausting.
Yeah.
Even if there are a lot of fun,
even if it's fun,
it's fun,
exhausting.
it is crazy exhausting.
I remember back in the day when it was a lot of Snake versus Black Rose and Snake versus Family, and there was literally a month where I think every single day, every single afternoon, everybody would be getting called to an all-call GVG, and we'd sit there for 2 or 3 hours and duke it out. And like after like the second week, I was kind of like, okay, I know I'm not the biggest PvP fan, but I show up to support the homies and stuff like that. But holy cow, I am like, I want to go, I kind of want to do a little something else. Like, I like this, but I kind of want to do something else.
Well,
I feel like this outlet will also solve the problem of, like, sometimes, like, the worst parts about a GVG is its unevenness, right? Not getting enough participants, or you outnumber sides and stuff. And I think that this kind of solves that problem by having a cap on it a little bit. Yeah.
But like I said, like it's now more people could technically attend if you schedule it at a very certain time. Like if you schedule it like, I don't know, an hour or 2 before node wars would probably be a good thing, because the players are looking to warm up before node war, right? Like, so that would be like a good healthy way to do it. That's when most of the PvPers are getting on anyway, and it's a good healthy outlet for those gamers that kind of want to do that small scale skirmish stuff. And again, like having it on a timer means that players aren't going to burn out. Regulating how frequently people can do the content, although it might seem ridiculous up front, and players might say, well, that's all I want to do all the time. Well, those are the same players that you see play the game less and less and less over the weeks.
Because you can do it anytime means that you don't do it in the limited window it would have been in.
In my experience,
creates kind of a problem.
Yeah, in my experience running PvP guilds, those players that are just like the most gung-ho about node wars, like they go super hard. You see them at every node war, they're at every GVG, they're always trying to start stuff, and then they just fall off the face of the universe because they just burn out super hard on the game. And it's not even that they're grinding too hard, it's that they're just doing too much PvP, and then they lose fulfillment from the game otherwise. So like I think the regulation is honestly a good thing, even though some players might see it as a bad thing up front. Now as far as the state of competitive PvP modes, we're all on North America, and I have like limited experience with how the other node war scenes are doing, just because I do the United Nations podcast. I know that KR is like really struggling. There are probably 4 to 5 total node war guilds in Korea right now, mainly because their top 3 guilds are the Koreans describe them as the cartel. And what they will do is they will basically drop, as all 3 of them will just drop together on a node and zerg everyone off the node, and then hand it off to one of them every single time that there's a fight, or every time that there are forts down. And obviously, if you do this enough times, no one wants to come out in PvP anymore, so they've effectively killed their own PvP scene. And so, like, we're very fortunate in North America to have, like, Show Nation, Digital, and Corrupt, who have been our top 3 for a while. Although they do drop on fights from time to time, they don't drop together because they all hate each other. This is a W. And when they do try to crash fights, they typically they bring like just enough to make it like a reasonable fight. So like, and we don't see that happening a crazy amount in North America. I don't think EU does it either. I know that SEA hates each other more than any other server, so they definitely aren't dropping together on nodes unless they're in there, like they've all got like their segregated alliances and stuff. So as far as the state of open world, or I mean of like large scale PvP goes, it's struggling. Worldwide, it is struggling. In North America, it seems like it's okay right now, but I'll admit I've seen a decline in overall fight availability and the overall number of players wanting to do PvP content like that over the last few months like this. The T1 scene is always prospering. We always see like there's usually like 20 or 30 T1 guilds that are kind of just cycling, reduce, reuse, recycle, and then new players are kind of getting into it. But whether or not those players actually make it to the end game of like tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 node wars, very, very small percentage of them. And it's a smaller percentage than are actually quitting the game on the high end. So like the net result, you end up seeing like less and less players in node wars, less and less players doing siege, kind of worldwide, even though the scene on North America is for the most part stagnant. It's steady decline, it's a slight decline, but it's doing okay. Open world PvP obviously is in a serious amount of trouble right now because they removed one-sided deck changes. I still feel that that was a W change for the game. The problem is that alongside one-sided deck changes that end a lot of the harassment that goes on in the game, there is still harassment that goes on, no question. But they didn't actually follow it up. So like these GVG changes are kind of meant to try to follow up. Okay, yeah, you don't have one-sided deck changes anymore, but now here's some GVG content that is a little bit more consensual that people kind of yes up into to compensate. So like as far as the competitive PvP modes go, they are definitely struggling across the board. As I think, and I think it's pretty obvious the reason is that Pearl Abyss has kind of shifted its focus away from PvP. That is the brutal but honest truth. They do not, like, there are simply more customers. It is a business. There are more customers that want to do cooperative gameplay, that want to play with other players, but not necessarily against other players. There are more players that want to do PvE solo gameplay. There are more people that want to do just their like guild content, like large scale guild content that isn't against other players, you know, because that can feel scary to a lot of people. And the mindset to get good is simply not a good argument when you're trying to sell a product. For us PvPers that have been around a long time, sure, that would be a reasonably valid argument. But like for a new player, telling them to just get good and get 750 gear score and like get good, it's just not a vibe. Let's just stop playing the game. And like you need to keep customers coming in, and so the focus or the shift more towards PvE content and PvE game modes, I think, is an objective W for the game. I would just like to see large scale PvE, large scale cooperative PvE, or raids or dungeons and things like this, like a shift towards that. Yeah, PvP is always going to struggle, but I think on the whole, if you look at every single MMO across the genre, no, they're not all focused on PvP, but even the ones that are more geared towards PvP, their player base is hurting. Or I mean, like their PvP player base is hurting just because, you know, there's just way more players that want to do the other content. And I think that Pearl Abyss is realizing that. How do you guys feel about it? We'll start with Jay, since I did blind last time.
I'm just hoping that I'm just hoping that we get another dungeon this year. And we didn't get one last year. but yeah, that's what I'm hoping. If the shift is going towards PvE, well, you know, to be fair, they have been adding a lot of like end game PvE stuff, like in the form of Dekia stuff as well. But hey, like I think more cooperative stuff, like that's the thing that I'm really looking forward to, and hoping that this year that they'll introduce some more. I mean, they are introducing Land of Morning Light Part 2 this year, and Land of Morning Light Part 2 will have guild boss splits, and so we'll see what happens with that. I hope it's not, you know, like I played World of Warcraft for about a year back when Legion came out, and in that game the dynamic for the raids was kind of like you're punching your face against the boss until you finally like beat it and stuff like that. And like there was moments where my guild was like we're like 200 pulls in on this one boss, you finally get it down, and like the whole Discord explodes into like, you know, everyone's crying.
Okay, I didn't have anybody crying, but like, yeah, dude,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about crying.
I feel like that experience would be kind of cool for for
I cried,
BDO, and
Jay. I
maybe
cried.
those you cried. Yeah, same. I was crying those 200 pulls when we were there
Yes,
for like 4
sir.
weeks on that one
Well, dude,
boss.
that's some of the best times I've ever had in
Yeah,
gaming
exactly, yeah.
across any genre. Were in Destiny
Mhm.
2, which the state of Destiny 2 right
Oh
now,
my God,
absolute
yeah.
dog water, absolute just
Terrible.
garbage. But like some of my best memories as a gamer were like you're trying the raid for hours and hours, whether it be Last Witch or you're trying to fight the Callus final boss of the first raid. You're grinding with your friends for hours, and I'm shot calling it, and we're all trying to work together, and everyone has to execute perfectly, and you're all in different like rooms and stuff doing your jobs, and you finally pull it off, and that feeling is the best feeling in gaming. I have never gotten that in BDO. I have had some great feelings as far as like shot calling goes. Like let's be honest, I'm a StarCraft 2 player, so shot calling just came at that's what I wanted to do. But like that's where I kind of get that fulfillment. But like I don't really get that. Like there's no like that sense of cooperation like towards a common goal, except in Node Wars, which, to be honest, you're cooperating toward a final goal, but like it just doesn't feel as good. It's just not there. You know what I mean? Most of the time you're banging your head against the wall instead of doing some PvE mechanic. So yeah, Terran Master Race indeed. But yeah, it's just so like I think the shift, obviously you guys are gonna agree with the shift towards PvE. As a PvPer, lately I've been not enjoying PvP because it's been a lot of one-sided PvP, admittedly. But as an enjoyer of consensual PvP, I think the shift away from PvP is kind of going to be a natural flux. I think that they should definitely still give it attention, but they can't give it as much attention as they did at the start of the game, and that's just the brutal truth. Like they're selling a business. The game just won't. If the PvP community had its way, the game just wouldn't be around in 10 years because there would just be less and less players playing it. But as it is, a shift towards PvE content gets new players interested in the game. It gets new players excited about the game. And then, because they got excited about that PvE content, they try PvP. So even though they're interested, like initially they're interested in PvE, when I started BDO, I was like, I'm a non-PvP gamer. I don't want to PvP at all. Not much has changed. But after a while, I was like, you know what? Why don't we try Alt C? You know what I mean? Like, why don't we give it a go? Why don't we see what? And I tried it with my friends, and I had a great time. It was a good time. It was exciting. It was a rush. It was super fun. And then it kind of initiated me into PvP, and I enjoyed it for a super long time. I still enjoy it as long as it's Node War, Siege, AOS, Battle Arena, things like this. Like I enjoy all those forms of PvP. Maybe not open world so much anymore, but I like those big GVGs as well. Are a lot of fun. But like again, I never even thought for a moment for like the first year or two that I played the game, there was no PvP at all. I just didn't do it. Just because I was scared to. And I just, I didn't want to play against other players. I was playing an MMO. I wanted to RP a little bit. I wanted to life skill, and I just didn't feel like it would fit in. And then I took the plunge and it felt good. But the more players you have playing the game, the more players that will be interested in PvP long term, and the PvP scene stands to profit a tremendous amount when a lot of players start playing the game, because naturally some of them will want to PvP, and then over time all of them will try PvP, and a good amount of them will have a good experience, at least in my opinion, with the game. Like Land of the Morning Light came out, and we had a massive player surge in the game, and a bunch of new guilds got formed, and a lot of them did PvP, right? Like, so like we got a big influx of players there, and that was really good for the game. So yeah, the shift away from competitive PvP is sad but natural, I think, over time.
I think that it's a lot of old heads in BDO just upset that the game philosophy is changing. I've been there in BDO where there were certain things that were more emphasized in the beginning of the game, and as the time has grown and changed, it has changed where the things that you may like are getting outphased in the game, and unfortunately it's just one of those things. It's just tough when you look at it as like a PvP standpoint, because PvP is like arguably what a lot of, again, old heads in BDO were motivated for, and the entire reason they played this game over any other game in the first place, on top of its combat. And PA is just shifting philosophy, which I believe they have been doing for a little while now. The deck change kind of was like the final, bullet, and I feel like people are just kind of resisting it, saying no, please don't, when unfortunately it is a minority of the community. I understand like the feel of the dynamic combat of like just you never know when you're going to get into an encounter and just running into someone open world and just wanting to, you know, change both of your days. You know,
Well,
my day and that person's day are going to get changed. But I think that just PA wants to turn away from that because they, you know, I don't think they want a. I don't think this, but I don't think they want a like victim in any kind of situation. I think they want everybody to be doing things that they enjoy and having fun.
Well, no
opting
matter
in and stuff like that, right?
no matter what you have, you're always going to have griefing. There's always going to be people that try to grief you no matter what you do. Even if you take away PvP altogether, there's still going to be people trying to grief you. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to minimize the overall harassment and how bad it feels, right? Which segues into our next topic, which is the announcement that came out in KR about like less than 24 hours ago or something like 24 hours ago, that they're changing their operational privacy. Evidently, there's been a lot of allegations going on, and Perlibus has come under a lot of scrutiny because on the Korean server, there's been a lot of sexual harassment and serious harassment, not just like, oh, we're coming after a streamer situation. No, this is like serious harassment stuff has been going on. And so like legal teams have gotten involved because sexual harassment is pretty serious in KR. I say pretty serious. Obviously, it's serious everywhere, but like KR takes it very seriously. And so they released like what they're gonna do with their new TOS changes. And one of the big changes that they're bringing in might be a little controversial. I think it's an objective W, but you will no longer be able to feed players to mobs. From now on, if a player comes in and flags for PvP and tries to kill you and you end up dying to a mob, you do not lose crystals to the mob. You don't take a death penalty for dying to mobs if somebody PvPs you before you die to mobs, number one. Number two, if you die to mobs and somebody PvPs you, they will still take a karma hit, even though they're not the ones that receive the kill. I think this is an objective W. Immediate downsides that I am seeing is people seeing someone flag for PvP, taking off all their gear and then running in like a kamikaze pilot into the mobs repeatedly.
Oh God!
Yeah, like so that you lose all your karma. Like it's. I mean, you have to think immediately, right? Like, how is this system going to be abused? So like it's just like overall, if you set that aside, it's an objective W. I think for just across the board. However, that the system can be exploited a little bit, but to be fair, you can get your karma back pretty quickly. So like even if you do get karma bombed pretty hard with this, number one, you kind of asked for it, right? You flagged up for PvP like this, and number two, you can get your karma back relatively fast. So like I'm curious what you guys think about this. You guys are PvEers. How do you feel about this? We'll start with Blonde.
The situation for a long time has always been okay. So, you know, I'm in a grind spot, someone PvPs me, I'm getting griefed. Or if I've got nothing to lose and I just keep rezzing up, whether they come into mobs or not, I'm just gonna keep running it down, and then the PvPer feels like they're getting griefed. So either way, there's a griefer. No one's owed any grind spot, nor is killing someone give you the grind spot. If you got the patience to kill them over and over again, then that's your thing. But it's now just like, if you don't want someone to exist in your spot, just swap channels. Because just like if someone was PvPing me nonstop and they deck charged me and I couldn't do anything and they kept killing me over and over again, I would have to change channels. Now PvPers will just have to change channels. I mean, even PvEers against PvEers have to change channels. Not everybody wants to fight over a spot. So I didn't read the thing because I'm night shift, so I've been sleeping all day. But I did read some stuff about it. It looks interesting. I've talked about that for a while. I feel like as a player who is just like getting PvP'd or PvPing in mobs, I think that dying to a mob is kind of bogus. Like if I lose a crystal or something because of something, and then that player didn't even intend that, we were just fighting because we wanted to. It's kind of like really sucky, especially if you have these massive crystals that are worth billions of silver that aren't just sitting in the market. I think that's like kind of stupid, but I think it is just a W overall. I understand feeding people to mobs was kind of the way to get them out of your spot without losing karma and to react to that, but it's just the new way, I guess. I don't think any feedback will ever change PA's opinion because, I mean, even for a long time with the red stuff, they didn't like red players. They never did anything with Mui Quinn. They haven't done anything for red players in a very long time. They actively make it so that you can't do anything if you're a red player because they like don't let you get this gear, or you can't tag, or you can't do this or that. So
they lost crystals.
He's just been doing
recently.
it slowly but surely.
Yeah, like that,
yeah.
like the in the most recent patch, they lost all the like when you die as a red player, guys, you actually lose crystals every single time you die, whether it's PvP or PvE. If you die in PvE and you have no crystals, your gear downgrades. So
I think
what red players
go
would
ahead.
do is they would put on very cheap crystals and just keep
Mhm.
refreshing their crystals all the time.
Right.
But those were all removed with the most recent patch, which overall was a W for the game because it condenses all of the crystals and stuff, and there's less confusion for there's less bloat, right? For new players. But it had the adverse effect of affecting red players, and I don't think the Prolobus particularly cares. In this case, when you're talking about feeding people to mobs and this harassment, because we haven't even gotten into the other TOS changes yet. But like, this is a legal thing. Like they're between a rock and a hard place on this. If they don't do anything, then they're legally vulnerable. And like because it's sexual harassment, right? It's beyond like normal harassment. Like people harassing me on stream, yeah, that's whatever. You're not gonna get sued for that. Nobody cares. But like when you go after somebody in that way, yeah, you open yourself up to some sort of lawsuit there. So like, then again, like so, Perlibus's immediate response to something like this, just to protect their own company's interests, is going to be to shut down harassment, and that's going to be a crackdown on PvP. So like again, like we're seeing this is a really harsh change, but I think it's an objective W. But like it does take an aspect of PvP away from the game because no one's going to want to flag in the open world anymore to kill anybody. Which could be a win, could be an L for a lot of players. Kind of depends on it. Jake, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Sorry. They're between a rock and a hard place because if they don't do anything, the player base stays happy. But they're legally vulnerable, right? If they move on it, the player base gets upset with them when we know how much they hate public opinion being against them, but they're less legally vulnerable. So like they're in a tough spot and they're choosing to just play it safe. Jay, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to help with like I always get people in my chat always complaining about how they lost a crystal due to like people feeding
the
them
worst
to mom,
feeling
so
ever, bro.
It sucks, but for the most part for me, I mean I've experienced early on in my career in BDO as an awakening witch that those response were not in my favor. So I personally kind of just stopped trying, and for the most part, sure, it sucks that I lose my spot, but I don't mind just moving to another spot. I don't make any enemies. I've had a much better experience grinding. I'm less stressed. I'm thriving. I'm enjoying the game by simply walking away to a spot.
Yep, I walk away too, bro. I don't bother with it. They DFS me and I swap servers because in my mind, I've voided the spot. If somebody DFSs me, I like to respect DFS, but like I don't do it. So like if they DFS me, I say, okay, the spot's yours, and I swap servers because they were willing to DFS and I really don't want to. I also play two classes that are not going to be able to win a DFS as a general rule, but like regardless, I think there's civilized ways to handle trying to take a grind spot, and then there's uncivilized ways. And I think that they're trying to remove the harassment aspect of the grind zones, right?
Yeah, like I mean, we do have to take into consideration, though, we do have a lot of channels on North America and EU. On a lot of these other regions, they don't. And so it is going to be
that's true.
Very weird when you have only a certain amount of grind spots and only 2 or 3 different rotations, and you've got 100 plus players trying to get in that spot in that region. I feel like for some of these other regions like MENA and SEA, don't they have like literally 6 channels or something like that? And that's including their seasonal. So I feel like that's going to be kind of rough for other regions, but I can only speak obviously from our perspective. Yeah, it's easy for us to just swap, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I don't know what it looks like on their end.
There's always going to be griefing in the game. No system is going to be perfect. So there's going to be people. The opposition to this change is always going to say, "Oh, there's going to be people grinding over me and all this stuff." But I would rather that than having someone come in like a barbarian, and like flagging up and trying to kill me and then following me to another server. And that's really all this change is kind of. Change is kind of hurting, right? Like I would rather like because to be honest, like how frequently do you encounter somebody that like comes in and just starts grinding over you like a belligerent loser, and forcing you to swap servers or go to Marnie's realm? Has that happened to you since the one-sided deck? Has that happened to you since the one-sided deck changes occurred 5 months ago?
Not to me.
And you guys are big PvEers. Jay, has it happened to you?
Nope.
Hey, and it hasn't happened to me either. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very infrequent. So if you find somebody that comes in and just starts grinding over you, typically the solution is to you can just swap servers, or you can go to Marnie's realm. And I know that feels kind of bad to give your spot to a terrorist like that, but like no system is going to be perfect, and this is the lesser of two evils in my opinion. Like I think that taking away this like crystal loss to mobs is awful, especially during GVGs. Like when you're trying to PvP and you're GVGing at Ash Forest, for example, and I lost my high take crystal. Like I'm in the middle of a GVG and I happen to get hit by a mob, like last hit by a mob. That feels really bad, bro. Like, and no one would even lose karma in that situation with the new system. Like you're not going to lose karma, or I mean, you're not going to lose karma, and no one's going to lose crystals at open world GVGs anymore. That's a W. That's an objective win in most cases. So like
how does it work? Is it like you get like a debuff or something that like protects you, or did they explain that at all? I'm not sure how does the system like work?
Yeah, so if you're flagged, if you get hit in PvP, or you get flagged on in PvP, or you get hit at all, you don't lose crystals on death for like the next X amount of seconds. They said they're still working
They
out.
weren't specific about the time.
Yeah, they weren't.
Like a general...
They were just announcing they were going to be doing that. They haven't actually shown it as like an in-game function.
Correct.
As a process. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that most players that disagree with this kind of take are typically the players that are the problem. I hate to say it, but like the people that abuse the system the most are going to be the ones that are most upset about this. Again, not losing crystals to PvE death is an objective win when you look at it. And if you don't see it as an objective win, you're probably the problem. But like, and again, no system is going to be perfect, but you know, it is what it is. As far as the rest of the changes goes, Perlibus has started cracking down. Like they're going to crack down really hard on bans. So they're going to ban more aggressively for chat bans. They also basically doubled down on their macro take, which said that like you still get permanently banned if you get caught macroing a single time when you're not supposed to be. And one of the biggest changes that they added is once you're permanently banned from the game, or if you're temporarily banned from the game, they will ban all of your accounts. Or they have the right to ban all your accounts. So I'd assume that means that in almost every case, they're going to keep you from playing their game moving forward if you get banned.
Oh boy. Like an IP ban?
Yep. Yeah. They specifically mentioned IP address bans and PC bans. So like hardware bans from the game permanently if you get restricted.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of a big change, because most of the time players would get banned on one account and then they would just swap to their alt that also has 700 gear score and just continue their harassment. But no longer, right? Unless you literally move like locations
and get a new PC.
And get a new PC. In which case, I'll be honest, okay, let him play again. You know what I mean? This dude wants to spend like $5,000 to play the game again.
That's a lot of effort.
All right, yeah, exactly. All right, he's probably #reformed. You know what I mean? He's probably going to take better care of his account. Yeah, like
holy cow.
Yeah, so like I'm curious what your guys' take is on all those changes that I went through there. Jay, we'll start with you there.
Yeah, I think these are all you know, for the most part, overall good positive changes. And again, as you mentioned before, like if you're upset about these changes, if you're the person who keeps wanting people to lose their crystals from fading people to mobs, then yeah, you are part of the problem. So don't do that. Don't do that. That's all.
That's it, bro. That's it. If your gameplay, look, everybody should be allowed to play the game the way they want to play the game, as long as it doesn't negatively impact the players around them. Right? Mm-hmm. Like that's I take the same, honestly, I take the same philosophy in life, right? I like personal freedom. I think that everyone should be personally free to do what they want to, as long as it doesn't affect the personal freedom or health and well-being of the people around you. You know, like this is just common. We're talking about common decency, just straight up. So yeah, Blonde, what's your take on it?
Yeah, BDA is adapting. BDA has been changing for many years. They, you know, I don't think people knew they were going to take a hardline stance on the deck thing. But they are, and we're just gonna have to adapt. Even if there's some things I might not like or like the change, it's just gonna be what it is, you know. Yeah, I think that you know, they're introducing so many other ways to get integrated into different types of PvP and different forms of that combat that you're just gonna have to change your interests or get used to the new status quo. there might be like a big, push away from certain players that are again the old heads, but bring back Shadow Arena. We'll see.
Yes.
That might solve a lot of problems. Unironically, Shadow Arena could really because it has that overworld aspect. There's some PvP.
I'll be honest with you. If they bring back Shadow Arena, I'm taking full credit because I started playing Naraka Blade Point and they were like, "Nope, we can't. We can't. We'll just add that to our game and then he'll just play more Battle Royale. Easy."
I think it solves that.
I actually do think that you're actually not wrong. I actually do. I agree with that take. Like if they added what arena was it called? It was a Shadow Arena, bro. And bro, it was so long ago, bro. They made it the standalone game. For those of us that don't know, Shadow Arena was in the game. It was Pearl Abyss's take on a battle arena, or a battle royale. Yeah. Kind of like Fortnite, but for BDO, right? So you spawned in and like 50 players. You unlocked a class right at the start. You went to a random class, then you picked up items, and you tried to be the sole survivor. And this was an extremely popular game mode when it came out in BDO because honestly, battle royales were like a big thing back then. They still are very popular genre. But like the rewards were super good, and it was the first time that the game had ever seen good PvP rewards. I mean, I remember DeJules just playing it 24/7. It was the most I'd ever seen the dude stream in his life. It was crazy. And then the Pearl Abyss had this great idea. Like, wait a minute. We can make this a standalone game and make more money.
No.
And if you look at how that went, it went just about as badly as you might have thought, because the players from Black Desert did not go play the new standalone game. It hard tanked into the ground, and didn't they shut down the servers recently? I don't know.
Yep.
Like it's
recently.
Yeah, it went very poorly. Big flop. But like the code is still technically in the game, and again, it was very popular within the confines of BDO because again, for a sandbox MMO to be able to do something like a battle royale like that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
I felt like it helped like kind of disperse like those players, like you said, Blonde, that love to just dog on people and like bully people in the open world. You can do the same thing in the battle royale, but you can actually get rewards. Yeah, but actually get rewards for it.
You're
like
having fun. It's different every time. It's like that randomness in the open world that you don't get really. Well, not anymore.
Yeah. So
that
good.
was the key figure, and I think that would kind of nail that.
I think that was BDO's first PvP VE mode, technically. Yeah. Right?
Where's the VE?
You kill the monsters to get the gear.
To get loot.
True. You did have to kill mobs.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You unlocked skills too from killing the mobs too. So you didn't start off with Meteor as a witch. You had to like unlock Meteor or something like that.
It was like BDO in 15 minutes. All the career of BDO. Get in, grind, kill player, win.
Yeah, like
when you killed Red Nose, you got a Red Nose armor, and you were like so tanky.
Yeah. No, I think that yeah, good times. If they brought that game mode back, I think that people would really enjoy it. I honestly think that it would be just an objective W.
Thirst,
right?
That thirst for that.
You could bring it back. They could call it Light Arena.
Right. Light Arena. Nah, bro, just bring it back and give it to us again and watch it succeed, bro. Watch it succeed within BDO because players would really enjoy it. It's just an objective win. Now we're going to pivot a little over to the global labs. Because I know that most of our discussion has kind of been centered around PvP for this first part of it, but there's a new sea fog ring on the global lab, which is a new best in slot evasion ring for players that I'm sure that DP memes have been asking for forever. Because up until this point, believe it or not, there's something called the Jesus game. The Jesus ring in game, and that has always been this ring right here, this 76k ring,
the green.
This green ring is technically the best in slot evasion ring in the game on current patch, but there is a new evasion ring that is going to be objectively a lot better than this. It gives HP, it gives more evasion, it gives more DP. Not that matters too much, but like it's just an objectively better ring. And it's going to drop from paddocks. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm pretty sure it's going to drop from paddocks. How do you guys feel this kind of impacts the game?
Is there not enough evasion?
Get out of it, bro. There's so much accuracy in the game, man. Like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Is there really not enough evasion? I know they took out some crystals recently, right? So maybe that's the. Is this the counterbalance? I don't know.
I still don't think it will be very popular. I don't think it will cause like a huge influx of people to suddenly run full evasion. I don't know too much about like hybrid builds. So maybe this will create some new builds utilizing this ring. But even if that were the case, I think DP and hybrid builds are very like extremely niche after all. So I don't think it'll be popular. I did have a discussion with someone explaining about this ring has like low sheet DP compared to Kadri's, because Kadri's has 20 sheet DP. But I think with all the Fallen God pieces now, it's not that difficult to get the final bracket of 401. So,
well, that opens up a little bit of a discussion on should they also increase a DP bracket?
True. Maybe. I don't know.
Like
numbers are going up. I do think eventually though they will increase sheet DP. They've done it before, and you know, as time goes on, like power creep is inevitable. So I do think sheet brackets will come.
Is it time? Do you feel
time?
Do you feel tanky enough as it stands currently, or do you think they should add more DP brackets to the game? I think, in my opinion, I think it's time. I think there should be more DP stats in the game, or like just more defensive options in the game. Like, yeah, there's tanky players, but for the most part, you see players just dive in and just get instantly one shot. Most duels are over before the players even get CC'd, bro. It's not even just like a DR. Like, I don't know how you fix DR. I watched a 725 DR like berserker get one comboed by a succession DK with like 305 AP. Like, the dude just blew him away. It wasn't even remotely close. So like, I think we are at a state where like we need more changes like this. We need more DP in the game. And like, you have to be careful about it, because like the developers, I'm sure behind the scenes going, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they ask. Because like it feels really bad. You guys have never experienced an Awakening Mystic like I've experienced an Awakening Mystic or a Striker, right? They just an unstoppable force meeting an extremely movable person on a casting couch that is Witch, Dark Knight, or Wizard, right? So like, you got to be careful when you add DP to the game. You don't want to add too much, because then players get so tanky that I assure you that not being able to kill someone is worse than, like, no matter what you do, you can't kill them, is worse than having to one-shot somebody. So I think that there's a delicate balance that they should definitely lean more towards more DP brackets now. But like, how do you feel about that, Blun?
It's kind of tough. I had a long discussion after our last podcast about the gap in gear, and I had it was a very long discussion about, like, you know, it's not just getting to 700 gear score. It's not just getting about 720, 730, but there's so many other little things to finish on your account. So many things that aren't just like sort of raw gear score, that like alternate sets of gear, upgrades, like your Garmoth stuff, and further on upgrades that stuff really does not get looked into, like the actual real gap between like an end game player and an end game player. And so I feel like it is exactly like you said, really tough to think about adding something like this, because you're just giving everybody that's already at that point just a ton of just stats, and depending on your perspective, for no reason, to just make it even further of a gap for 90% of the rest of the players. So like, people that are already there, it's gonna feel great. Yeah, who doesn't love it? For the people that aren't there, it's just gonna feel like one of those defeatist things where it's like, why do I even, like, I'm gonna have to keep going forever to even get close to beating that. So I don't know what the right choice is, because it's it's one of those things that, like, well, it depends what end of the stick you're on, whether or not it's a good decision. I'm kind of in the middle of opinion wise, so I don't know, because I do remember those days of not being able to kill people, and it's one of the most miserable experiences in the game. You can't kill them, and they're just gonna exist forever and never die, and it's miserable. That is arguably more miserable than dying to them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think.
Remember.
Go ahead,
I was gonna say, I remember Witch had a mechanic. I don't know if it's still the case, but whenever you were in super armor as a witch or a wizard, you just had inherently more DR during that time. Like when you casted Voltaic, you just had more like natural DR.
Yep.
Yeah, super armor.
And that makes me, and that kind of makes me think maybe there could be a new form of direction for in that same direction that Witch had. Like people could start. There would be another tertiary stat called, I don't know, super armor reduction. And so when when you're doing a super armor, you have a little bit more extra DR, or maybe even another tertiary stat that increases your forward guard gauge, right? Instead, like maybe like new cups in the future raise your max forward guard gauge by like 5%. Instead of having 100 gauge, you have 105 gauge and stuff like that. Maybe that could be the direction for adding more defensive options if we need more survivability in the game. If this is the
it's an
time
interesting
for it,
take. The only thing that I disagree with on this is that it again makes the game more complicated.
True.
I think that like you end up
more stuff.
You end up in a situation where like a new player is trying to play the game and like there's yet another stat that they have to try to figure out. I think that if they were going to do that, they would have to simplify everything. This my stats page
systems,
this my stats page, why do I have 3 of every stat, bro? Even as an experienced player, they're like, Blue, how much AP do you have? And I'm like, oh well, hold on, I gotta do like some arithmetic.
How much ranged AP do you have?
Yeah, like hold on, I gotta add all this stuff together and try to figure this out. And you're like, oh well, I'm a ranger, so is it the same for me? No, actually, your ranged damage, and I am magic, so like your damage. Well, my damage against that striker is really low. Well, actually, you only do 85% damage to strikers specifically, but you do 95% damage to witches, and then 198% damage to dark knights because those guys. But like, there's too many things like stats in the game. It all needs to be condensed down like super hard. But like, if they're gonna add an extra stat like that, or like add more DR to super armors and stuff like that. Like, again, everything else needs to be condensed before they even look at doing something like that, in my opinion. I don't know. Blonde, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, there is a lot. Diversity is important, but too much diversity is rough. I think that, and also, like, I like the idea, Jay. It just has to be implemented maybe correctly. It's so tough when you have more and more just adding to this infinite receipt of stuff you gotta put on the.
Dude, it's crazy.
All right, that's another thing I gotta buy. There should be other methods in the game, like, oh, you've done 20 RBFs, and now you've unlocked like stage 1 of whatever this ring cup is, and you can interchange them out. I think that more variety in that way, having different sort of horizontal content that isn't just grinding in a sense of money, but maybe doing like a daily RBF or doing like a thing. Like, there should be forms of, again, this horizontal sort of progression where it's not just killing monsters. Like, you do an RBF, you do a node war, you do a siege, or you do the GVG, or just participating in those things. I think more of those types of systems are fun and rewarding. As much as people don't like quote unquote time gated content, it's better to feel like, okay, I've done my Zarka weekly, oh, now I'm gonna go grind this, okay, and then later I'm gonna do my boss splits. Like, having like a lot of these just options of things to do is important, rather than just adding again to the grocery list of things you gotta go and get by the end of your BDO career. So I think that if they could implement it the right way, it could be right. But yeah, there is definitely a lot of balancing before they get there. It's very tough to just we only got 2 PvP class changes, and we're still waiting on the rest of them, right, guys? Nerf Circuit, come on, let's go.
They're gonna do stuff, right?
We got Drac and we got Sage, but where's the rest? There's like 26 classes. Kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Now, very quickly at the end of this, how do you guys feel about the new grind zone? We've only had a couple days on it, but I assume that both of you have tried it. I was gonna try it yesterday, but then I went and tried almost every other Dekia spot for the first time. It was a lot of fun.
I've not tried it. That's why I was asking Jay about it. I still was going for the LV guide, and I got it, and I was just about to go there, but I was like, I don't want to do it during the podcast. I was like, I'll wait till later. But I definitely am excited to try it. I'm very, very excited.
There's actually so the dynamic is very interesting in a sense that there are like dangerous moments, but I've done a lot of Olins, and so I'm like very used to watching out for like, oh, he's swinging his big giant leg, I better move out of the way, And like I'm very used to that. Like I understand like that if you get hit by it, it does kind of hurt, but if you are able to just if you know how to do the mechanics, if you know what you're looking out for, it's actually a very chill spot because you actually get like a little bit of a water break every now and then, every like
I
few
heard
minutes.
about that. I
Wait,
like
really?
that.
Mobs
That
just,
sounds
like,
awesome.
it just kills the mobs for you for like 20-30 seconds, and then you just like stand still. It kills mobs for you. You just loot, stand still. Like you don't gotta
Is
do
that what
anything.
Hugh was talking about when he was like,
Mhm.
"Oh guys, I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything. Macro,
No macro,
oh,
no
report
macro, no
me."
ban.
No macro. Yeah.
Don't ban me.
Occasionally you just get a little bit of a break, like every 3-4 minutes you just have a 20-30 second break.
Oh my
It's nice to just be able
Oh
to
my
get it off.
god.
And
It
then
would-
there are moments where you get it's like high, like when he is available to hit, right? There are like very dangerous moments where there's big AoEs. You got to watch out for that. But once you get over that, it's very chill, I would say, personally.
Okay, right on.
Maybe
And
some people might disagree with me because
how many-
I actually I just want to mention, like, I was during the first day when I saw when I was just watching my feed, and there's a bunch of my guildies were dying to the thing. I
what?
just saw like So Frosty dying to Sakulion. I was like, oh, is So Frosty having trouble here?
I too wish
Frosty
it was a group
catching
grind stuff, though.
strays right now, bro. That poor, oh man, he just got demolished. Holy moly. Okay, so wait, what's the one? Is there a
Yeah.
one-shot mechanic or something?
There are a couple one-shot mechanics where, well, it's not like a one shot. Well, it doesn't one-shot me because I'm 765 gear score, but it might one-shot people who are less than 765 gear score. You can forward guard a lot of the attacks if you have enough DP, but if it does break, if you guys don't know how forward guard works when it breaks, so let's say you have, I don't know, 50% of your forward guard, because a lot of people don't know about this, is that if you have 50% of your forward guard, so let's say an attack does, I don't know, 10,000 damage, right? Just like theoretical numbers. And your forward guard is worth 10,000. Let's just say that, right? 1-to-1 ratio. And if you have 50%, right, you would think that when your forward guard breaks, you would only take the difference, right? Of 5,000, right? That would make sense. That's not how it works. If your forward guard breaks during that attack, even if you are 9,999 and the damage is 10,000, right? It's just one attack damage. It breaks through and you take the full hit of the damage. And that's it's super obvious here at Dekia Olens. Is
That
you
sounds like
take
a
the difference.
very intended mechanic.
That's-
That sounds like definitely part of the game. For sure. I'm glad you explained that to me. I actually did not know that,
Yeah.
bro. It's like the more
that's how
you
that's how
know.
forward guard works.
Jay's
Mhm.
over here.
You don't take the difference in damage.
Actually,
Mhm. Actually, yeah, you
that's-
take the full damage if it breaks. So
okay.
if we simplify it to lower numbers, if an attack takes away 50 of your forward guard and you had 49 left, and if that 1% breaks through, you take the full damage of the hit. And
Yeah,
so
that's messed
it's
up,
a little
bro.
dangerous in that way. Yeah.
I wonder if it's like that in PvP too.
It probably is.
Gotta be
That's
like
how it
that,
works in
right?
PvE.
That's got to be how it works.
It's
in
very
PvP.
inherent in Dekia Olens because you have a shy with you, and you can literally see the difference. Like, I can't forward guard the attack from the one shot attack in Dekia Olens without the shy buff, because if it breaks, I'm down to 50% HP. But if I have the shy buff, because if you guys don't know, HP also affects forward guard, and so if I have the shy buff, 1500 HP, it takes me down to only 20 gauge. So and I'm still at full HP. So like, it's such a big difference in like whether you get broken on your forward guard or not. It's crazy.
Wait, I'm like rediscovering PvP for the first time. Like, wait, this explains a lot of stuff. So like,
Yeah.
and if that is how it works, first of all, that's got to be bugged out of its mind. There's no way that's intended, bro. No other game works that way, right? You block the incoming damage. If you block part of the incoming damage, you don't take the full shot because your guard went down. But that could be a big reason why shield classes feel like Warbo in large scale PvP. Like warrior is what frontal guard? You know what I mean? Like,
maybe not too sure about the dynamic of PvP because
the Valkyries are
has, like multiple hits, right?
Yeah, true.
Frontal guard. Like it's it's funny because a lot of people get really upset about frontal guard and super armor. I think the simple fact of the matter is, if frontal guard actually blocked any amount of like reasonable damage, you can use it to block like 2 skills. Yeah, with a shield class, with like a strongest shield class in the game, you're blocking maybe 2 skills of an equally geared player in most cases. Maybe 3. Suck Nova can block a little bit more, but then you're playing Suck Nova, so you've already taken that L. But like, I think that a big part of the tankiness in PvP could be alleviated by like buffing frontal guard. The amount of damage a frontal guard can actually soak, just in general, would help change like the face of PvP in general. I think that would be a W. And then you could theoretically, people do not like the frontal guarded super armored classes. They do not like those, and I have to say it feels like an unfun mechanic for most of those classes. Also have grabs. I think every one of them has a grab too. So like they stand in fully protected frontal guarded super armor and then they grab you out of your protect. That feels really bad. So like if you buffed their frontal guard up a little bit so that it actually did something, but then removed their super armor on their block, maybe that's a fair trade. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it balance wise, but like that actually might work out a little bit. It's a good suggestion.
That is so weird.
Yeah. Okay.